Hey Lee, welcome to Coaching for a Cause Coffee Conversation. You are our first, and I'm so happy that you are here today to join me in talking about how action coaches can be benefiting from coaching nonprofits. So how are you today?
I'm great, Lisa. Thank you for asking me to be your first guest. I appreciate that. And also I want to thank you for doing this, and thanking Action Coach too, because it really is a wonderful service that we offer. And if you think about all the coaches worldwide doing it, what a difference we can make. So thank you, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Excellent. Well, I knew that you were the right person to start this conversation with, and it's going to be ongoing because you and I have had great conversations in regards to our commitment to coaching nonprofits. And, you know, I like to say for impact, the for impact sector, defined by what you do, not what you don't do. But you have some really great tips. And so I wanted to ask you a few questions that I think would be very helpful for our action coaches.
Okay.
If you, number one, could talk about what approaches have worked for coaching nonprofits for you in your Action Coach experience.
A good question. What happened with me initially was I had a client reach out to me for coaching because they had received a grant, and so they paid me for the coaching. And what I learned in that process was that an executive director is very responsible for an awful lot of things, and they really need coaching. Oftentimes they're not paid the big bucks, and don't have the level of resources, or depending on the nonprofit that you're involved in. But for the money that they paid me, I coached the executive director, and I also did a strategic planning session with the board. And then I did a couple of workshops for the board. And I actually had them buy a book called Joan Gary is the author's name, but she's very specializes in working with nonprofits. And we read the book and we brainstormed and took some things out of it. So that's my first exposure to nonprofit. And they were so excited and welcoming to have the knowledge that we bring in coaching. And it was interesting because I would do things like, when I did the strategic planning session, I started out with above and below the point, and I talked about learning, and I talked about, 100% participation and all the things that we teach. And the people that were on the board were just consuming and thriving on every word I said. They just wanted this information so bad, and to be able to transport that information to their cause. So I just got an awful lot of great feelings and feedback from working with them. And then what happened beyond that was someone came up to me after I gave a presentation on DISC at a breakfast scrambler and said, "Oh my gosh, I'd really like to hire, we need a coach so bad, and what could we do?" And so she hired me and paid for DISC, and we did that, and then it ended up working into my working with her as a coach, and then coaching for a cause. So I'm not charging her any longer. But let me tell you, they show up on time for their meetings. They get their work into me. They're just so grateful to have a coach. The other thing I want to mention that's really important is the executives that I'm working with now with the Alzheimer's Association, which is the one I'm working with now. They also won an award, an Action Coach Award, a couple of years ago. And I mean, they promoted that thing and they put it on Facebook, and they have the plaque hanging up, and they're so proud of being coached. Let's see, what was I going to say about that?
You've brought up a great, first of all, you illustrate what it looks like when you have this really great partnership with a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And I think that you've had this unique journey in regards to, it sounds like a positive receptivity to the coaching experience. And I love the point that you make about executive directors and needing to have an ally in the work that they do. Having been an executive director, I understand how isolating and the kind of lonely place can be. You work for the pleasure or mercy of the board. And so you really need a strategic thinker and partner to help you navigate through working with that board. Have you had experiences or observed or had conversations with other coaches where there hasn't been the receptivity that you've received, the positive? It's been more of, well, you're for profit, your business. What do you know about nonprofits?
That's a good
or
question.
have there been ways in which you framed the positive experience of, I know I used to say the nonprofits that I consulted before coming into Action Coach, if you are willing to explore implementing best business practices into your nonprofit, I want to work with you. And then be able to justify why you need to do that. But any thoughts in regards to that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So one of the tools that we have in the system is the Coaching for the Cause booklet. It is just full of information. So I would recommend print it out. I know I'm old school, but I say print it out, have a look at it. So what I told the Dress for Success organization, they're the ones that actually paid me. I said, let's do an alignment. Let's see what happens. I may not be able to work with you, but let's do an alignment. And you walk them through the alignment process. And in the Coaching for a Cause modules that Action Coach provides us, they've taken what we do for businesses and they've applied the language of nonprofit. So they refer to leads as donors, and they refer to money as donations or gifts. And so we are talking using their vernacular. And I remember when I did the alignment with the Dress for Success organization, the director came, the executive director and the president of the board came, and they both just leaned over their heads and said, I have never had anybody ask me such great questions before about our organization. And all of those questions were in that book. And it's exactly what we do with our customers when we help them in a profitable situation. For example, who could you help if you could double your donations next year? How much of an impact would you be able to make? And when they can think of the answers to those questions, they get excited about it. And then you talk about, well, here's how we do it. Do you have a list of your donors? How often are you communicating with them? Do you invite them, to your holiday party? Do you only call them when you need money, or do you call them for other things? And those kinds of questions, that all of those tools are in there in that Coaching for a Cause documentation that we have at Action Coach. It's a priceless piece.
I love that. And I also love you gave a great tip in the previous question in regards to Joan Gary. So that's another formidable person in the for impact sector that has signed up for their newsletter. I think a part of it is even becoming comfortable with the language and the priorities and the culture of for impact or nonprofit sector. The mindset, you and I have talked about this before, how critical mindset is. And we know that in the Action Coach Culture and Family, mindset is critical to the foundation of making sure that we're connecting to our audiences. And so I see this disconnect with a lot of people in the for-profit and Action Coach thinking, well, I don't really know that much about nonprofits. Actually, nonprofits need best business practices now more than ever.
Yeah, and they're excited about measuring and tracking because no one's ever had them do that, or some of them. I mean, some of the organizations are very large. The other thing I think coaches should consider and remember is if an executive director is doing a good job of fulfilling the board, getting those people in there. First of all, there are people who are there for a cause. And so I want to also just recommend, if it's a cause you're personally passionate about, that's a much easier cause for you to support. So if it's some of your passion, then go for it. And it could be BMX bike riding. It could be, mine have been Alzheimer's Association. And so maybe you have a passion for helping the animal shelter. If you're passionate about something, they're happy to have you and to have that expertise. So the other thing to remember is you've got a board that consists typically of very smart people who are in big business roles outside of the nonprofit organization, because the executive director that does a good job is pulling in really smart people from big companies with big budgets who do have resources, so they know what can be done. They just don't know how to do it in a nonprofit setting typically.
Hey, so we're in virtual time, so a little bit of our dog barking here for the first Coaching for a Cause coffee conversation, but it is what it is. So I have one more question before we sign off, and that is, what would the first few steps be for Action Coaches in their journey to start thinking about coaching nonprofits?
I think go to the Coaching on Cause resources that we have on the dashboard, which are phenomenal. Get them printed out and get comfortable with them. If you've ever done an alignment or a diag with a for-profit customer, you can do it for a nonprofit because all the tools are there. And you look like you're so smart when you've got those documents in front of you and you're asking them the questions. And then make sure it's something that you are passionate about. And then, you know, I just love telling everyone, I coach the Alzheimer's Association Board. Everybody knows the Alzheimer's Association. Everyone wants us to have memory of things. And we know that that's the cause we're trying to find a cure for with Alzheimer's Association. And I just love talking about it. Very proud to be a part of their organization. And they invite me to all their events. I'm also on the marketing committee for their gala, which is a blast. We spent $5,000 last year on, because, you know, anyway, I'm supporting them in other ways as well, but we had a great time and I met some prospects there too. So that's not the only reason to do it, but that's just one of the benefits.
Lee, thank you. I knew that you would be the perfect person to launch this. A lot of great tips within this first Coaching for a Cause coffee conversation. And I want to tell everybody about the upcoming workshop that we have for Action Coaches on October 29th. That's going to be 8 a.m. to noon Pacific Standard Time. And it will be virtual, but we're going to talk about things such as Nonprofit 101 for fundraising basics, the seasonality of nonprofits, the roles and responsibilities of a board member. And by the way, most board members haven't had official training, so there's going to be an edge that our action coaches get in regards to knowing about roles and responsibilities for boards. And then you know, looking at how we can be a part of making an impact and really concentrate on the language and the culture and build up our cultural competencies so we have confidence in working with the For Impact.
I love 101 fundraising. I think everyone could benefit from that. So that's awesome.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. It's going to be exciting. We are committed to leading this organization forward in regards to what we can do for continuing our impact with world abundance through business re-education and focused on the For Impact sector growing globally. So thank you, Lee, so much. I'm so glad that you can be a part of this today, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, Lisa. Talk to you soon.
All right, great. Thank you.